In my case, the way I communicate with the spirit world is, let me put it this way: I do not communicate; they communicate through me, and they communicate through me for me to deliver a message.
But yeah, pretty quick I realized that people would think that I was creating stories, or that I was just dreaming, and that it was fantasies. But when my mom saw at school all my drawings and what I was saying, she confessed to me that she also could see what we call spirits. And when I started to see spirits too, I told my mom that the spirits and the beings of light were not the same. To me, the experience in itself was very different. So she's like, is all this emotional aspect, also all these, the experience itself showed me that there was a difference. With the spirits I felt fear, with the beings of light I felt peace.
But after my near death experience, I did very different from Francisco. I did started receiving a lot of messages through my dreams. I started dreaming with people that had already passed, and they were so alive and so present. And the thing is that I got messages that there was no way I could have known.
Welcome back to this new episode of In Dying I Began to Live. My name is Francisco Valentin.
I'm Ana Cecilia Gonzalez.
And here, Ingrid Honkala.
Hi, everyone. We're going to welcome you. And because right now we're receiving a lot of questions, which is good. And we have two questions that we're going to answer into one segment, because this is a very common question that keep repeating itself. The first question is, how do you communicate with the spirit world? And the second question, very similar but with a twist, is, how do you know it is you and not the spirit world who are communicating? So here we go. In my particular case, because Ana Cecilia and Ingrid, they have their own experience, so we're going to be answering questions based on our personal experiences. In my case, the way I communicate with the spirit world is, let me put it this way: I do not communicate; they communicate through me, and they communicate through me for me to deliver a message. The way I do it, or the way the message comes through, in the beginning, at first, it came in the middle of the night between 1 and 3 a.m. in the morning. I just get this waking up and start receiving what I understood at that time, and to be able to help you understand better, instead of a message through words, it's a message through the abstract, through images. And as the images start showing up, I know exactly what that image means, which is that I receive not words, but the intent from those, in my case, what I learned to call ascended masters, better known as the collective forces of knowledge and wisdom. Uh, Now, the message, as it comes through the intent which precedes the thought, is received in images, but also it comes in the framework of words that they want specifically to be given as a given example. Let's say, for example, when I ask, uh, "Who am I? Who are you? Who am I communicating with?" The response that I receive is, name calling limits the source through reasoning. Rather say that it comes from the collective forces of knowledge and wisdom. As you can see, those are not common words, and they are not even my words. And that's the other reason. That's the other reason why I can answer that question. That second question. How do I know it's not me? Because of the language, the words that come out of my voice. Uh, because also I know through a feeling. It's a feeling, not an emotion, but a feeling of something that is beyond your imagination, beyond your control, further, further, uh, and it's something that it is so hard to explain. But it is like, for example, when you recognize someone that you've never seen before, and you know that that person you have met somewhere, probably in a previous life or something, is a feeling that you cannot, it's very easy, very hard to describe. And that's, at least that's one of the modalities that I received the message. But I also want to hear from Ana Cecilia what she has to say.
Sure, sure, Francisco. Thank you very much. It's amazing how this is incredible. How we all have these different ways of communicating with the spirit world. And in my case, I love what you're sharing, because in my case, it really came since I was a very little girl, that I was not sure, and it took me many years to even be able to share it, because what happened to me is, since I was born with, as you all know, with a very serious heart condition, and since I was a little girl, I saw this. I thought it was a ghost, and I thought it was like a strange image there that came to take me, because I was often very sick because of my heart condition, and I saw this being, this what a ghost. It was an image of somebody there that was always there whenever I was very sick. But in my case, I couldn't say it was his voice or my voice. I just thought, I mean, I just heard inside. It was like telepathically. I knew that he was there. I even named him Raphael, because I didn't know if it was a woman or a man. And when you're a child and you're in this 3D, well, things have to have a name, and you don't think about other things like that, but what you see and touch in this world. So since I didn't know it was a Raphael or Rafaela, I call it Raffle in my mind. So every time it came, I just didn't know if I should fear, if I should be comfortable, but I did know that he came to comfort me, because he was always, it was always standing there. And I do remember, since I was a little girl, this visualization of things when I heard doctors. And this mostly came when parents think we don't hear these things as children, but I was probably 3, 4, 5, and I heard everybody so scared around me, saying, well, she's not going to make it, she's very sick, and she's not going to do this, and she's not going to do that. A lot of things that I overheard, and that made me so fearful, but this being was always there. And there was this communication that let me visualize my life. So I think it was through images that I've always been connecting with this being. And he made me see myself growing up, like being, in where being a Mexican, there's always this big party when you're 15 years old and you have this big dance. I visualized that, and I visualized myself also having a boyfriend, getting married, having a family. And this was since I was a girl, and this raffle, as I call him, was always there. So it was like, how could I prove it was him and not me? Because years passed, and when I grew up, every single time I was in danger or my life was threatened, I saw this being there, like protecting me. And then later on, after many years, when I wrote my book, I looked for this name, Rafael, and I found out that Rafael in Catalan is in this Spanish language. It means Raphael, the archangel, and it's an archangel of health. So just imagine finding this out 50 years later. So that was one of my experiences with, I have many more, but that was one that I then confirmed, that every single dream I had, that dream or visualization, that through his being there, I had in my mind, came to be true. So that's I'll keep on saying more things. But Ingrid,
Oh,
tell us
that is amazing, Anna, and that's incredible, Francisco. How it's just to show how in how many different ways the spirit
yeah.
world communicate with us. And same thing in my case, I have many stories, many different ways in how things had happened. But for me also started since I was just a little child. And as for the ones I already know my story, I was just 3 years old when I had my first near death experience. And when I came back from this experience, that communication stayed open. And it was at the beginning, I only had the possibility to see. I could see the beings of light, as I call them, everywhere. They were shining in pure light. It was like people call them orbs. I call them, it was like starlight figures, and they were everywhere. And the first time I was able to hear voice, for me it was like hearing my parents talking. Like it was very physical, because we all talk a lot about and I always mention that we have our five senses in our physical 3D reality. But I also always mention our spirit, or let's call it our inner seeing, our inner hearing, like the eyes of the soul, the ears of the soul. And to me, the first time I ever heard voice coming from the spirit world was very touchable, very real. Like if I was hearing somebody talking, and it was a voice that spoke to me in a very it was soft and compassionate and loving way. And I was, at the time I was crying to my family, saying and that this was that I didn't need a name, that I was feeling confused, and I was feeling detached. I didn't have attachment to my name, to my persona. And it's when I heard for the first time, it's going to take time for them to understand that names are not needed in the realm of the light. And I remember looking around, I'm like, who is talking? And I just saw the beams of light shining around. And is when I had that first encounter with receiving knowledge through sound, that felt very 3D, to say it that way. But after that, I have received communication in many other different ways, and we will talk more about it. And I know that Francisco and Anna probably experienced similar things. Is more like knowing, downloads. Oh, I guess we can talk here about this for a long time. So tell us, Francisco, how else you feel, or how else you communicate, and you make it feel that this is coming from these sources, and not from your mind, or from your ego.
Yeah, in my particular case, I did not have the experience you two had, which was from early stages in your life. In my case, it was abruptly. I mean, it all started in 1979 when, at the young age of barely turning 18, I died, and I went into the other side and came back with little memory of what transpired during that event. But after so many years of going through different spiritual experience that at that time I didn't know that I was having, it came to the point in which, while sharing time with my 20-year-old son at the time, on July 7th, 2011, a spirit of light communicated through his voice to remind me of an agreement that we made back in 1979. So in the sense, my experience is totally different from yours, because I got this information abruptly, overnight. And it was on me to recognize that the information that I was getting, it wasn't coming from me. it was coming from a higher source. Uh, Needless to say, I do not communicate with the dead. I do not see images. I have no idea what those spirits of the light might look like. The collective forces of knowledge and wisdom have never presented themselves before me. So I am totally unaware of uh, that type of perception through the sixth sense. In other words, I do not see, I do not speak with anyone. I just receive the information. And when I receive the information, I know that it comes from the collective forces of knowledge and wisdom because it's one source. Let me give you an example. Uh, in the early stages, where I was trying to figure out all this crazy stuff that was coming to me, I asked one question in regards to wanting to see, for example, angels. And I wanted to see angels. I mean, how can you show me the angel realm? How can I see it? And I received no answer. However, when suddenly I begin to feel this change of energies, change of vibrational level, which to me it felt much denser than the stage of lightness in which I was whenever I was communicating with the collective. And as soon as I enter into that denser realm, very distinctive, and I didn't feel comfortable, I snapped out. And as I snapped out, the collective started telling me, you see, that's the realm where you go when you try to communicate with those so-called angels that you want to communicate with. And that's it. I did not need any more words because I knew exactly what they meant, which is that my vibration level was at a level where I could meet with the collective and nobody else, because there are different frequencies, different realms, different whatever you want to call it, dimensions, or what. So and that's how I learned that I can only communicate with those from the collective forces of knowledge and wisdom. I had many other experiences, but because we want to take this opportunity to share with everyone here all the different perspective. Let me take it back to Ana Cecilia Gonzalez.
Yeah, thank you, Francisco. It is I find it amazing that we all have so many different ways of receiving, of knowing that it is. And the way you say it is like uh, so so not only different, but it really proves how this spiritual world is so extensive that it's according to our or the way we can receive, the way we can even express it, because you write them, you get them, and you tell it out to the world. And there's people that prefer to just speak it out instead of writing it. So I just find it amazing that the three of us have having so many different ways of receiving it. We can get here together and say, you know, don't feel that if it doesn't happen this way, it's not real. So it is just different, but the spiritual world, the spirit world, will never isolate. This is the only way I'm going to tell messages. No. So in my case, what happened is that as I grew up doubting, still doubting about this raffle and about these things, I had my near death experience when I was, as you might know, when I was 24. And after that is when I started. It's like I call it the after effects of all of this. And it for me, it was a confirmation of the way I had my spiritual life since I was a little girl. Because when I was very small, I could perfectly well see myself out of my body. I didn't know what that was. I thought it was dreams. I thought that was my mind making it up. My parents never heard about it, and they never even listened to what I was trying to say. So you just stop saying it. But after my near death experience, I did very different from Francisco. I did started receiving a lot of messages through my dreams. So I started feeling this. I after just after probably a few weeks or months after my near death experience, I started dreaming with people that had already passed, and they were so alive and so present. And the thing is that I got messages that there was no way I could have known, but through some real source. So let me just give you an example. I One of the first dreams I had was about a wheel that one of my friends' dad had left, and it was like, how am I going to tell them about the wheel? It was my dream, of course, but he was so real. We were sitting in a restaurant. He gave me information there was no way I could know. Next day, I tell my friend, and she says, wow, we were fighting over this wheel. She didn't even know. I didn't even know they were talking about this that night that I dreamt. Another night, I dreamt about a friend that gave me information to his parents. I didn't even know where his parents lived. I didn't know that that they had moved to a river, and he said, "Tell them about the river." A lot of things that started making sense. So then I started talking about it. But it took me many, many years to understand that this was a spiritual world communicating to me for me to give the message. Because we all receive things. And what I want is to invite you to don't discard or discharge anything you think like this is not normal, this is not real. Wait a minute. Try to confirm it. And for me, the way that I started confirming that Rafael was there, first of all, everything I visualized when he was there has come to true. I mean, I'm 60 now, and they thought I was going to die when I was 7 or 9 or 8, and I'm still here. And I visualized all of that, and Rafael was there, and then all of these dreams that keep on appearing and coming. I have at least 100 written down that I went to confirm one way and then another one, and I started receiving one way by one. And then I believed that there was something else, and it was not my mind, because this information I got was so real that when I talked to the family about these dreams, they just confirmed every single word I said. So I want to invite you to, maybe it's not through dreams, maybe it's not, it's like Francisco says his way, maybe it's through visualizations you have, things that come to our minds are not just, sometimes they're just from the collective. They're from this world that we think it's our mind, but there's way that we can confirm. And for me, it has been believing that these dreams I have with people that are already passed, and now I'm getting with people that are very alive, but I start writing them. So one thing I've done is everything I get, I just write, and sometimes it's in the middle of the night. And then 2 or 3 days later, I just text the person. And it results that almost 95 or 98% of the dreams I have been information from the other side. So, yeah, believe me, it's not easy, but I've learned how to accept that this is real and this is true. So, tell us about you, Ingrid. How different has it been for you?
For me, this is amazing, because again, like you say, Anna, the universe is so given that it presents to us in the way that each one of us can, I guess, have the experience to share, and like other people can align with the individual experience of each one of us. For me, my validation study, I want to start by saying how I got validated. Like, at the age of 6, I started to see the spirit world. Now I am not just seeing beings of light. Of course, they're part of the spirit world, but now I could see what we call spirits. And then I know for my bloodline that there was family members that were mediums and psychics. But I came to learn that later it was my mom who actually validated that what I was seeing was real. And that was extremely, extremely important to me because I was just a little child and I needed so badly to be validated. And in school, I started to paint beings of light everywhere. So this was the reality I was experiencing. And the beings of light had told me not to uh, talk to them because nobody was going to understand. And imagine this was my experience. So I was like, what is not to understand? And but yeah, pretty quick I realized that people would think that I was creating stories or that I was just dreaming, and that it was fantasies. But when my mom saw at a school all my drawings and what I was saying, she later she confessed to me that she also could see what we call spirits. And when I started to see spirits too, I told my mom that the spirits and the beings of light were not the same. To me, the experience in itself was very different. So she's like, is all this emotional aspect also, all these, the experience itself showed me that there was a difference. With the spirits, I felt fear. With the beings of light, I felt peace. So I told my mom the beings of light and the spirits are not the same. And my mom thought that I was seeing angels. And I said, Mom, but they are not angels because they don't have wings. And it came some really important aspect here. I since I had been talking with the beings of light, by now I was 6 years old. And then I asked the beings of light, I said, my mom say that you are angels. Is that what you are? And the answer was incredible because it was, again, is this compassionate universe that guide you to see or experience what you need for your growth. The answer was, we are what you want us to be. And
Wow.
yeah, that was incredible. And when I also asked them, like, and what are those spirits? Because the spirits cause me fear, so I call them dark spirits. And I was expecting to hear, oh, these things are different or whatever. And it's when I heard that you call spirits, you as in essence we are the same. The difference is the level of awareness that you have about who you truly are. So from there, again, with the validation of my mom and the things that I was experiencing, I was able to know that what I was receiving was real, that I was not there losing my mind. And I will not extend now. I can talk about this later, but same as Anna, as the way you started to receive things through dreams, and Francisco, as downloads in the middle of the night, I started to have visions. And these visions started since I was very little. Probably I was about 4 years old when these visions started to happen. And the same as Anna, these visions started to become real over time, and I could prove that what I was receiving and seeing was real messages. So yeah, Francisco, just tell us more about how you also validated, or how you also started to know for sure that what you were seeing and receiving was
That it is
that,
real. That's
yeah, that
real.
it is real. It's just, that's the question, people. And yeah,
I want to ask you something, all of it, and for all of us, because this is something important that just came to me right now. Have any of you been afraid of this at some point? Like, is this something, because this is just to validate people that wait, what is this? And how can you cope with that?
Well, let me take my turn and answer that
Yeah.
question for you. Uh, am I afraid? The answer is absolutely not,
Great.
because the level of trust, the frequency at which it comes, and the feeling that I get is so overwhelmingly full of love and compassion that I know exactly it doesn't come from any other source in my particular case than the collective forces of knowledge and wisdom. As I expressed before, when I wanted to see, to experience the realm of the angels, or the so-called angels, uh, I changed my frequency and I felt it immediately. So I am 100% trusting whenever I get that specific feeling that is like,
Yes.
if I give an analogy, it's like, the smell of a flower, a
Mhm.
very particular smell that it cannot be compared with anything else.
Wow.
But going back, Ingrid mentioned something that recalled my mind to share with you guys, is that she mentioned the word lineage. Uh, most, not most, but a lot of people that I know, that are mediums, channelers, or those who can communicate with the spirit world, come from an ill lineage. Uh, in my particular case, my dear mother, who died at in the year 2000, she was a transmedium. So I must have that in me. However, a transmedium is a medium, someone who can speak with different, uh, with different spirit, but goes into a trance. It usually goes into a trance with in my mother's case, she went into a trance with a particular spirit. But I don't go into a trance. I don't. I can be, for example, I can be giving a lecture and I do the lecture as I know what to say, and suddenly it comes to mind a specific subject. In a particular case, I will never forget one day that I was doing a live lecture and I was going from one subject to the other when suddenly I went blank and I panicked. And I
Mm.
look at the crowd and I said, I lost communication. And suddenly,
Wow.
and suddenly I
Wow.
snapped back in and I said, oh, it is because they want me to talk about this other subject. And actually that's being recorded in one of my lectures. Now, going back to the lineage, and I do not go into a trance, but I do know who am I speaking with. For example, uh, and, the spirit world, whoever communicates with me from the collective forces of knowledge and wisdom, each one has a different personality. So yes, they do have personalities. uh, for example, there's one that I call them. I call them. They remember I said that they do not be. They rather not be called by name. But I call them, out of love, I call them the poet, because the way it brings the communication, it is in a poetic words. I am not a poet, and neither do I intend to be one or become one. So I don't know anything about poetry or the laws of poetry or whatever, but it speaks like in a very smooth poetic way. There's another one that I call the teacher, because it gives it when it brings information, it brings it in such a loving way that it feels like when you were a child and you had this teacher that explained everything so eloquently that you just fell in love with the teacher by the way it expresses uh, himself or herself. And then there's another one that I call the scolder, because every time he comes is because he's scolding humanity for what they have done or lack of doing. uh, but I want to bring one little detail from this conversation for the audience, those who are thinking beyond our level of conversation, because I have a lot of people that said, "Oh no, that's not spirit. That is your higher self." And yes, it is true. it is we there's nothing but our higher self, but we're not at that level yet. So we need communication with those who can help us. It's like, for example, what I bring to the table with the collective, that we are one. Yes, we are one, but we're many. So we're not there yet. We're not ready to understand the concept of oneness. So we need our individuality, and within our individuality, that's how those of higher realms communicate with us. Some give themselves names, others, like in Ingrid's case and my case, we don't need any names. But I just want to clarify that to the audience, that yes, it is our higher self, but we're not there yet. So we're talking to you guys at this level, so we all can understand each other. uh, so Ana Cecilia, bring another subject, or keep on with this one.
Thank you. No, no, yes, I think we're just complementing this information amazingly, and just going back to what you said, Francisco, I loved it. That I think one of the things that we can know when we're really speaking to the spiritual world and we're receiving this is precisely there's no fear. There's no fear. There's a lot of peace inside. And one of the ways I discovered this is when I was in intensive care, really, really very close to death, and I started crying because I was tired. I've been there for almost 2 months, very, very sick. And there was a moment in which I just cried out to heaven and I said, God, this is enough. Please just take me with you. I can't handle it. You gave me a vision. I had already had my near death experience that I was going to leave. I was going to see my daughter again. She was 10 months old by then. I just wanted that dream. But in my near death experience, I had already made peace that if I passed, she was going to be okay. So it was not really that physical need. But I started praying and I said, please stop this. This is hurting too much. And then in that moment, one of the things that I felt, because I was crying, hurting, anxious, whatever, and then I see what Ingrid said, well, I don't know if it's angels because they don't have wings. But there was these two beings of light, one on my right and one on my left, that started cleaning my body. And they give me so much peace, no fear at all. I was only filled with love. And that love that Francisco talks about, for me, it's the key of an answer of a lot of the things where, how do we know where it's coming? How do you feel about it? Does it give you peace? It gives you this sense of uh, wellness, of complete uniting, and I would feel fulfillment. So whenever you feel like that, you know it's not coming from only your thoughts. So these beings of light started cleaning me in such a way that I went to sleep for hours. And we're talking about a moment that I couldn't breathe. I was hurting. My sister was there, and I was just really, really physically hurting. And the moment I cried out for help, and I see these two beings, and all of a sudden, no hurt, no pain, I felt embraced by love. And let me tell you what, a week later, but 3 days later, I was out of intensive care, and almost 2 weeks later, I was out of the hospital. So that made me convince myself that I was crying out loud for help, yes, through prayers, through even crying, whatever you need to do. But the moment I knew it was really a whole communication with the spiritual world, what was with this beautiful and loving peace I felt, and it was love. Love is, for me, love is the answer. Love is the way we can know that. And I would say it this way: fear only blocks information. Fear only takes you away from the real message. So if you're having a lot of fear, just work with it. This is not the way the spirit world talks to us. It's not through fear, it's through love. So what do you think about this, Ingrid?
This is incredible, Anna, because when I mentioned that I felt fear when I saw when I started to see what I call spirits.
Yes.
It's all a matter, and Francisco mentioned this, it was all a matter of vibration. What happened when I was with,
Great.
from the very moment, from always when I was with the beings of light, just as you two mentioned, it was absolute peace and love. It was embracing, encompassing. It was like being so safe. But what happened when I saw the spirits? It was like they told me, and like you just mentioned, the principle of oneness, Francisco say, at the core of our being, we're all the same. But what
Right.
happened? We have created this individuality, and we focus in what we are and who we are and in the material world, and we create division. And
Right.
the fear was not because these beings were bad, is because I didn't have the understanding and the clarity, and two, because of a matter of vibration. When someone is not aware of who we when we're not aware of who we truly are, and we have created division, separation, we're to focus in the material reality, we lower our vibrational frequency.
Right. Right.
So what I felt was that because I was in connection with the beings of light, and Francisco and Anna are saying this too, your vibration is so high. So when I encountered these beings, what I was becoming to understand was how vibration operates, and the difference that it makes when we are actually acting from high or low vibration. So when my vibrational frequency was very high, I was in connection with what I call beings of light. And when I was able to feel the presence of what I call spirits, were beings that were of a lower vibration, but they were not bad. They were just, and they explained to me, they're just lost in the spiritual, or they have forgotten who they truly are, and they are lost or trapped or attached to the material world. Then the moment that, but they say you can help them. How? And Anna just mentioned through love, loving. When you love, you're able to even not just elevate your vibrational frequency, but the beings around. So that's why love is the answer, is just how powerful this is. And just to offer a little hints here of how to get to that place of being able to connect that, and I know that we all can talk a lot about this, is by calming the mind, by quieting the mind, by coming back to that place of reducing the inner noise and creating a space. And for me, just to also answer this question of how you know when you receive a message, when you have a download, when the beings of light talk to you, sometimes we're not sure. And probably the doubt can come because we have become now so distracted with the outer world. There's so much going on that even after I've been communicating with the beings of light so many years, sometimes something comes and is in my mind, or in my perception, is like, no, is this for real? Like, so I cannot doubt if what I'm receiving is really something that is coming from the spirit world or from my mind, just talking there from the chatting of my mind. So I ask for validation. And it's never wrong to ask for validation, because that just gives us keys. Okay, yes, I am aligned. I am in the right path. I'm in the right way. And is for me, like sometimes if I didn't know if what I was receiving was, I was not completely clear, the being solar would guide me. For example, to give you an example, I was writing a book, and in certain page of this book there was a misspell. I didn't know there was a misspell in page 33, and they would say, go to page this in this part of your writing, and there's a misspell there, and they will tell me the exact word where the misspell was. So this way I was like, the validation of what I was doubting will become clear. Or sometimes maybe I don't know, this happened to you, to Anna and Francisco, but I would just say that I wanted to take a class, or I was doubting, oh, I don't know if I want to take that class, I don't know if I spend my time
Yeah.
there. And then I will go into my meditation, I will ask for clarity, should I take this class, whatever, and I will receive couple of words. And I hear Francisco saying this before, words that don't belong to you, that don't belong to your vocabulary, that are, even me being a Spanish speaker, English is not my main language, and I will receive words in English that I've never
Yes.
heard before. And then later I will go and see a preview of the class that I want to take, a little video, an introductory video, and the person talking would use the exact same words, two, three words that I received. So that would be my confirmation and validation that it was okay to take the class. So things, little things like that, you can use to validate. I don't know what you guys use as validation, or something, or is something like this happened to you too, and Francisco.
Well, as to validation, comes, uh, at first my validation was the language they used. That I said, nah, this is not coming from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plus, remember, like I said in the beginning, I had to learn uh, from scratch, right there and there, at age 50. Boom, this is what it is. So I didn't have much time to juggle with it. uh, as to validation, my validation is the feeling, the energy, that aroma, or whatever you want to call it, that brings me to understand this. These are the collective forces of knowledge and wisdom. I know it's a collective group, and I know that there, each one has its personality, one come and go, and so forth, but it's the same energy, it's the same frequency. And just to wrap it up, for those who might have a doubt on how is it that it works, when you have a channel or a medium, what happened is that you first need to, like Ingrid said, you need to quiet your mind, and you need to vibrate at certain level. Your vibration level goes in accordance to your beliefs, your principles, uh, your belief system, and all that is taken into consideration as you increase your vibrational level. For example, if you are, I don't know, someone who is behaving very earthly, very radical, the vibration level is very low. If you are more spiritual, your vibration is higher. Now, your vibration energy had to be at par with the spirit world. As we increase our vibration level, those from the other realm need to come down to a level where there is communication. In other words, everyone, I mean, I've heard many times that everybody can communicate. Well, be careful. Everyone has the potential, the ability, and the
Mhm.
capacity, but not everyone is ready. So I just say it because I don't want you to be frustrated when you say,
Yeah.
I can't communicate. What's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. It is just that everyone has the potential, but not everyone is ready.
Mhm.
So if it doesn't happen to you, be at ease, be calm, and keep increasing your vibration level, because you don't know when you might reach that point in which you can have communication. Uh, but
Yeah.
what do you guys think? Because
Well, what I was going to mention, Francisco, is precisely that for me, one of the keys has been, and I invite all of you to do this, is what Ingrid and Francisco have mentioned. How do we quiet our mind? And it's been through meditation. For me, meditation has been the key, even in the midst of a lot of noise, of a lot of situations that I'm stressed or whatever. I try to keep myself, even if it's 2 or 3 minutes, quiet my mind and try to receive. Okay, why is this happening? Just give me an answer. Get talk to yourself. There's so much wisdom. There's so much information within us, but we have to listen. And the way to listen is just quiet your mind.
Yeah.
Stop making all this noise in your head. So I recommend a lot. What has worked for me amazingly is breathing. This little how do you call this activity of knowing, get yourselves a way of even a little course about breathing. Breathing for me is a way because I invite this spiritual, I invite light, I invite peace through my breathing. And then it starts getting into a rhythm. And that rhythm makes me be able to go into a deeper meditation. And meditation doesn't have to be for hours, it could be for even 3 minutes, 5 minutes. It depends on wherever you are, but it doesn't have to be a specific way that you sit, the way your pose, your time. It's just getting into your connection with yourself. And for me, I've been doing this since I was a very little girl without even knowing it was called meditation, because I did it since I was probably 6 or 7, when I was lacking so much oxygen that I needed to catch my breath. So I went into my bed, I laid down and said, please just turn me back pink so I can go out and play, because I turned all purple. So I started talking to my organs, talking to my body. How do you imagine this little girl could know this? Well, this was my inner voice through my calming myself through the breathing. And then I understood that I was entering into this meditation. So I started breathing slowly, talking to my organs, telling them what to do, telling them to get back oxygen so you can turn yourself pink and go out and play. So I invite all of you to learn how to do whatever, whichever way you want. But meditation for me has been the answer. I know we're getting up to close to our time, Ingrid, but yes,
Yeah.
thank you for all of us sharing. For me, meditation has been the key to get to that inner voice.
I want to just share, just to wrap up here, that for me, another technique that has worked to be able to open also the trust. Because sometimes if we don't trust in ourselves, then how can we trust the voice of the voice of a spirit? So the way I've done it is, you mentioned before, and a writing, but this writing is different. Is a writing in when you're going to make a decision, and I am going to say this short. I don't want the video to get too long, but when you are going to make an important, you can start by simple decisions at the beginning to open that inner trust. But say that you, Anna, invite me to go to the movies, but I don't know, I feel divided about it. Write it down. How does it
Feel.
feel? Because all of us talk about the feeling, not just what is holding in the head. And if I write it, I should I go to the movies with Anna? Ah, it feels constrained, it feels divided, it feels heavy. I don't know. The answer is no, and trust that answer. Then little by little you start trusting that inner voice, that inner guidance, that intuition. And if the voice says, oh, it feels relaxed, it feels open, it feels free, it feels good, then the answer is yes. So,
With no
and that's
judgment. With no
exactly,
judgment.
and that's also another way of meditating, because to write
Yeah.
down, you have to quiet your mind, you have to have the intention of pausing, you have the intention of wanting to feel. So is another way. Meditation come in many different ways, and we will make a complete new episode about that in the
Yes.
future.
Yes, let's do that. I invite everyone to to stay tuned for when we talk about meditation, because I have a lot to say about meditation as well,
Yeah.
and I know that
Yes.
Anna and Ingrid, each one who can bring our own modalities, and you pick and choose, and you make it your own. That's the whole idea. So we're wrapping up today episode, and inviting you to please share this with everyone else, Remember, don't keep us a secret. Spread the word, because our purpose here is to answer your question. Look how many questions we're starting receiving. Ask your question. Don't keep that question in your head. Put it out there. We will answer it at the best of our abilities. And the best thing is that it's not coming from one source, it's coming from three people that have three totally different experiences. But since we are one and everything is centered into one specific intent, which is to help everyone to open their minds, to get more clarity, to better understand the spirit world, so we can change from within. And as we change from within, we change the whole world we live in. So share this with everyone. Ask your questions. Subscribe to our channel. Invite others to subscribe to our channel. And we'll see you next time.
Yes,
Yeah.
remember, sharing is caring. So we'll
Yes.
see
Yeah.
you next time.
Be the change you want to see in the world. That's what
Exactly.
Francisco was saying.
There you go.
Okay. See
Okay.
you next
See
time.
you next time.
Bye.